to another edition of the Quarantine Files, brought to you by the Good Brothers here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your good brother, Mike Mercado, with the one, the only, the good brother himself, Alex Mercado.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien. Happy holidays, good brother.
Feliz Navidad.
Yeah, y tú también.
That's too much Spanish for me. You got me there.
Good brother. It is time. Last week on the Quarantine Files, we talked about our top 5 holiday specials in animated form. It was a fun episode, a lot of interaction with people on Twitter at the Good Brothers Pod, and everywhere you get your favorite podcasts at Mercado Airwaves. We thank you guys so much. And on this episode, good brother, we continue on with the holiday themes. What did you have in store for us?
So we're going to go over our top 5 Christmas movies. This is probably the hardest list we're going to have to do this month because there are so many. Our honorable mentions are going to be stacked.
Yes.
I hope, for the sake of our list, that we have a few different movies.
Yeah, so do I.
But I think at least 2 or 3 of them will be the same.
Now, I'm going to make a asterisk on mine right now. I did not put any animated movies onto this list, just because of the list we did last week.
Same. Those tend to be more special oriented anyway.
Yes, so I wanted just to put that out there. But with that, good brother, we'll go ahead and start it off. I will be number 1 this week because you started off last week. And at number 5, I have one that has been hot on social media within our group of people. At number 5, I have Will Ferrell's Elf.
I have it higher on my list.
Okay, so for me, the reason why I love Will Ferrell in this movie and the movie Elf itself is it has enough. First of all, the cast is amazing.
Yes.
One of the best casts you're going to ever have in a comedy. Because of the way that cast is put together, it puts on each other's strengths and weaknesses, from James Caan, the way he, is so serious and stoic, to Will Ferrell's goofiness. You even got Peter Dinklage in it. I think it's just great casting. Pure movie. Pure fun. I mean, we're talking about something that, like, in that time of raunchy humor, found the way to be family-friendly with a guy who we never thought could make that jump. And for a lot of people, and maybe later on with Kicking and Screaming and all these other things
that movie.
Even I do too. Even though it might have jumped the shark, that type of, caricature that Will Ferrell would play, at this time, it was perfect for his casting.
And I still think, you may think, like a lot of people think, Will Ferrell plays the same character. I'm like, one, it's an amazing character. And when it hits, it hits. Yeah, for every Sherlock you have a semi-pro. And you have a movie like Elf, which I think, regardless if you think he's too inconsistent or he does the same character, Elf is like the peak of that character. So, put some respect on the man's name, regardless of what you feel about his character work.
I totally agree. So I have Elf at number 5. Good brother, what did you have at number 5?
This one, I think for our generation, is becoming a modern classic. We saw this in the theater. I have The Night Before.
Okay, yeah, sure. Seth Rogen,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Anthony Mackie. I love this movie for the pure fact that I think it's one of those movies that when we look back, people our age can really relate to. This one starting a family, and this one friend really is kind of jumping relationship to relationship, not really doing it. And the other one's, a famous athlete. And I appreciate that in The Night Before, it's just such a fun, joyful stoner comedy / romantic film / Christmas movie / Hanukkah movie of just these 3 friends having fun and learning to adapt and moving on with growing up and in life. And it cracks me up. I love everything about this movie, honestly, especially Michael Shannon's portrayal of the hippie Jesus guy throwing this fancy party and giving him wisdom throughout the whole movie. It's just, to me, it's going to be something we look back on and be like, man, that movie hit.
Good brother, I'm going to go at number 4. I'm going to change it from what I have in front of my screen, because at number 4, I had Batman Returns. But I'm going to switch it to the other movie that people argue about, Die Hard. This is why. I finally am going to make my argument about why Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Plain and simple, he does not go to reconcile his marriage, to fix his marriage, if it wasn't for the Christmas party.
Is it an argument anymore, though?
It still is.
But who is arguing that? Like, I felt like we all accepted it.
No, because the people's counter argument was like, well, it could have been 4th of July. He would not have gone to her for 4th of July weekend to make...
Maybe Thanksgiving.
Maybe. But the whole reason why they're also there to take over the plaza and get the money and do all their stuff is because it's on the holidays. Mm-hmm. So to me, like, the movie doesn't work anywhere else in any other season. So then talking about the movie itself, obviously one of the greatest action films of all time.
One of the best Bruce Willis films of all time.
Great action scenes for a very simple... And this is the thing. We always talk about how Marvel makes the magical and the mundane. what Die Hard did is they made, without Die Hard, you can't get a John Wick with this realism of like, oh, that is a beat cop who's doing this action hero stuff. It's not Arnold Schwarzenegger doing this. It's not Sylvester Stallone. It's bald-headed, a little dad bod-ish Bruce Willis. So there was that groundedness to us. And then obviously Officer Winslow is in this movie.
Alan Rickman playing one of the greatest villains of all time. Still to this, 30 years later, we still consider it one of the best villains.
So like, what are we talking about here? So
he started a generation of that type of villain.
So that's why I have Die Hard at number 4. And like, obviously it's a fun conversation for a lot of people. Yes, it could be multiple things, but I love that Batman Returns has also kind of made that turn of like,
if I was going to pick a movie like that, it would have been Batman Returns.
I wanted to give it a little. I wanted to give it a little bit of love because again, you don't get Pop Pop without the entire Christmas season and theme going with it, plus Batman in the Snow. But I'm going with Die Hard.
I like that pick. I do enjoy that pick. It doesn't make my list because I like to do, well, if I use it here, then can I use it in action? I end up using it in action over. And like I said, if I was going to pick one of those movies to have a debate about, I was also going to pick Batman Returns, so it did make my honorable mentions.
What'd you have it for?
It's one of my old school favorites. It's Jingle All the Way. I think
honorable mention.
It's one of those movies I think like I enjoyed and our family enjoys it. I don't think it's a necessarily popular one. It's always a movie like, oh yeah, that one Arnold's in. Yeah. But for us, it was everything.
It's Turbo Time.
It was Turbo Time. Yeah. It is heartfelt. It's the classic trope of dad works too much but has lots of money. Oh, I forgot the kid's gift. Him and Sinbad committing so many felonies on Christmas Eve because, you know, he's out there shopping on Christmas Eve. It's charming. It's funny. He fights a reindeer. Our boy from Saturday Night Live is a creep hitting on the kid's dad. And I love the sweetness at the end of, I don't need the toy anymore. I got the real one at home. And I'm like, oh, you got me.
Yeah.
Got me. I love my dad too.
And Phil Hartman, obviously.
Phil Hartman, yes. He's just such a creep in the neighborhood.
But Phil Hartman has that magical glue. The same thing with Small Soldiers, where it's like having him just be there as a constant.
As that third string character. You're like, man, that's your third stringer. Like, this C plot is amazing. Because I love all the ladies in the neighborhood hitting on this divorced dad. He's such a good father.
Love him.
So, like, he's helping them all, but he's obviously sleeping with so many of them.
But he's also like a good dad from what I remember.
He's a good dad, but he's just a creep of a person.
So really good. You know, it's funny though. Arnold loves being in those type of movies because same thing in True Lies. He almost gets cucked out by Will Patton.
Yeah.
And he ends up finding he makes his wife striptease in front of him. So
I love that. I love Sinbad. Like,
I love Sinbad.
That's like that classic Sinbad with like first kid and all that, where you're like, man, Sinbad cracks me up.
Yeah. So let's go to number 3. I think an instant classic. You know, doesn't have a highest score on Rotten Tomatoes as I thought it was going to. But at number 3, I have Home Alone. Not much you could say about it. I just think pure classic. It uses the theme of Christmas really well within its story. Again, it's a movie of its time. You can't make this movie in 2020, obviously. But I think Macaulay Culkin, one of the strongest performances ever for a child actor, carries this movie.
So sweet.
Joe Pesci.
I
mean, he's Joe Pesci.
The Wet Bandits?
The Wet Bandits. The Sticky Bandits. Like, we're talking, it's a great movie. Great music. Great action scenes. It also does the great job of, like, what Big did a little earlier on in time. It's like, what happens when a kid has to become an adult? So I love
like him learning his lessons and appreciating his family and learning to understand the neighbor. And I love the B plot with the neighbor getting to see his granddaughter again because, like Kevin says, every kid likes their and I'm like, that's sweet.
Yes.
It's an honorable mention for me. Again, this is a hard list because it's a very personal list of which movie touched you at what time. I love Home Alone. If we did a top 10 movies, Home Alone probably would make it. But since it's specifically Christmas movies, I don't know. I feel like I watch Home Alone a lot throughout the year, not just at Christmas time.
And like everybody has their favorite scenes from when he knocks the shelf down.
I like when he's doing the Michael Jordan thing, like the neighbors
scene.
Are watching. There's like a huge party going on.
Filthy Animal. Like there's so many things. Like it's a classic movie.
And somehow the sequel is as good as the original.
Lost in New York is great.
It's so good.
Not as good, but good.
I think it's on the level of like for Home Alone being a Hall of Famer. To even be considered as good, I'm like, no, dude, like, it's really good movie. Like, you don't get a lot of sequels like that. It's on that list of, no, the sequel's really good.
Yeah. Speaking of really good, what'd you have at number 3?
This is my oldest movie. It's Miracle on 34th Street.
That made an honorable mention. Oh, I couldn't crack the list.
So, I don't love these older movies. I just think, again, kind of like Star Wars that we talked about in our other show. Sometimes age is a thing, and it just doesn't age the way you want it to. And there are movies like Citizen Kane and Casablanca that I can get past because I'm like, no, they're really good. This is that version for me of I don't love all those old, like, It's a Wonderful Life. I really don't enjoy that movie.
I love that movie.
I don't enjoy it. Miracle on 34th Street. I remember I sat down. It was like 12 o'clock at night. didn't have work, on vacation, snowing outside. I'm like, I saw it on, and I'm like, I gotta watch this. I want to watch one classic this year and get it over with. And man, when I tell you, I did not think I was gonna just like this movie, but love this story of this little girl who's too smart for her own good, and the single dad, and the neighbor, and the store, and the Santa Claus, and is he real? Is he not? He goes to court, and that ending where, was he real?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude! Like, I've never felt that way about a movie made in 1947.
No, it's classic.
To make
Yes.
this feel and to have that level of acting, and the guy. Oh my God, I love that movie.
The remake
so
is good,
heartfelt.
too.
The remake is fantastic.
The remake is really good.
It's just such a simple story of like, this guy just keeps doing good and donating. Keep doing good and donating it. And now they're questioning because he's a good guy and he still doesn't falter over it. And this little girl really doesn't want to believe. Like, she just thinks he's a nice guy, but then she ends up like, no, there is a Santa. And I love that story.
So for that movie, everything you just said encompasses what I have at number one, which we'll get to. But I think A Miracle on 34th Street, A Wonderful Life, they're both honorable mentions. They do something that like makes you believe, not just in the holiday season, but like in people. And like that's super important holiday season. At number two, I have a movie that doesn't make you believe in people, but it is one of my favorite movies ever. I'll put it on any list, good brother, with no shame. At number two, I have Gremlins.
Oh, that's a good one. Honorable mention.
So Gremlins for me, I mean, obviously when Billy gets Gizmo as a Christmas present.
I rewatched it. It is a cheesy movie, but
don't
it
care.
does cheese so well.
It's perfect cheese.
Yeah, perfect
Stripe
cheese.
is a little badass.
Yeah.
He's such a little jerk.
They look so like the way they move is so good. And it's this weird valley of like, you enjoy it. Like, even though you know it's old, you still enjoy it because you know what they were trying to do with it.
And I love Howie Mandel as a Mogwai. So, I just think it's a great ending. Bye, Billy. Like the end, like it's
Bye, Billy.
Yeah, it's the greatest. Like to me, it has wonderful action, wonderful funniness. It really does a great job of talking about society and the way we do consumerism and the way the sequel does. We watch television. I think it's a funny movie.
Here's my thing. Explain snow. How does snow not affect these little bastards, but water does?
I don't.
I can forgive the it's 12 o'clock somewhere one. I'll forgive that one. But the snow one got me.
But you got to think like there's some genius. I think why also the Mogwai like lore hits on people so much is we all have cats, dogs, goldfish, whatever. So the idea of like the hardest thing is like water and food, of course.
Well,
like,
I mean, also we're getting a prequel series on HBO, so
Ooh,
that's
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
I do love that movie. I think it's so cute. I love the little Asian man. It's maybe one day you'll be ready.
Yeah. And then
Come along,
Billy.
Gizmo.
Only Bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Billy could be the only one because he yells at everybody else for doing it. That's who I have at number two. Gremlins. I think classic.
It's a cute movie.
Yeah. What do you have at number two?
I have Elf, and I think besides going over the points we did, I think for me what makes Elf possibly one of the better Christmas movies to this day is I think it's timeless. I think it's one of the only movies I don't think you can show a younger generation National Lampoon's Christmas and they find it funny. I don't think you can show maybe It's Wonderful Life, Miracle 34th to certain people and they find it not boring. Or Scrooge or Muppets Christmas, like old movies we grew up on. I think Elf is that rare one where from older to younger can enjoy it. There's something for everyone. It's simple, but not too simple. It's sweet, but not too sweet. The humor varies from him getting drunk and dancing in the room to him just, having a snowball fight that's a little obnoxious. I think that's what makes it the number two for me is its status of this might be, unbiasedly, the best Christmas movie for the next few years of the pure fact that everyone knows what Elf. I like to do the Target and Hot Topic, test. You see Elf stuff, and you see stuff from my number one movie. You don't see a lot of other stuff. Well, Nightmare Before Christmas, but
Didn't make
Halloween
my list.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Because I like that as a Halloween movie more.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
That's a Halloween movie.
Exactly. So that's why I think Elf is just, everyone can enjoy it from any age. It's a timeless movie. And I think it might be the only timeless movie on our list.
Yeah, I agree, and it's great casting. I mean, seriously, like look back at that cast; it is so strong, and
it's a weird movie that had to hit on every cylinder.
And
it did, and like
totally
it's such
did.
a weird story of like, no, Santa exists and the North Pole exists, but there's like claymation. Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
And I love that like the beginning of him being so big, and like the way they build a set for
Come
him.
here,
and,
Papa wants to see you, and he
it's
sits
so
on his
good.
lap, like so cute.
What is it? Nitty Nuggets, whatever it's called.
Mr. Cotton-headed Niggin Muggins.
Yeah, so good, brother. Let's go ahead and do some honorable mentions before we get to our number one. I'll go ahead and do mine. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yep.
Bad Santa. I think a great comedy.
Like Bad Santa.
The Santa Claus.
I don't like
Tim
the Santa
Allen.
Clauses. I love Tim Allen, surprisingly for me, but I don't like the Santa Clauses.
Bill Murray Scrooge. Love that one.
I
Love it.
like Muppets better.
Christmas Vacation, to me, the best comedy based on a Christmas
I love
movie.
Christmas Vacation, and I love A Christmas Story, but obviously I think that's more of a memory than actually a good movie.
Die Hard, which would have been, this should have been Batman Returns.
Batman Returns, yep.
Trading Places, Miracle on 34th Street, and Jingle All the Way.
I'm also going to put in 8 Crazy Nights.
Oh, yeah, very fun. Very fun.
Which sucks. We talked about it. That there's just not a lot of Hanukkah movies out there, so I do appreciate that one. And, I mean, we had a lot of the same honorable mentions, though.
So with that, good brother, at number 1, I have this movie that I cannot go the holiday season without watching. It's the same thing as the Simpsons Christmas specials. At number 1, I have A Christmas Story. It is a timeless tradition. It reminds me of my mother, so the sentimental value is there behind it. But it's also timeless to me. It's also the one movie where it gets the family dynamic. It really hits on the tropes. And, you know, it has... What's complicated about life is not every father is like the seventh heaven father before we found out he was kind of a grindball.
He was a terrible fucking person.
But, like, yeah, your dad can have an attitude, a temper sometimes, but he's also very loving. You know, your mother can be very, you know, overbearing, but she also knows how to give you your space and knows how to bail you out. You have your younger brother. You have this sibling thing. You know what it is to want something so bad the holiday season and that disappointment of not getting it. Opening up that last present and it not being the one that you want. You also understand getting the presents you don't want that you're forced to wear. Your friends, stupid things you do in the winter, like putting your tongue on a frozen pole. Like it's timeless. It's a classic. What makes it a timeless classic is not when it was filmed. It's how they filmed it and the time frame in which they filmed it. So it will be good forever. This was a film that was made in the 80s? 70s? I forget.
80s.
Yeah. But it looks like it was made in the 50s, which is wonderful. And of course, you hear them talking about the bears and everything. So I love it. Yeah. But it wasn't fudge. It was the big word.
It's funny because it was an honorable mention for me, but it's probably the movie I've seen the most times.
Yeah.
And it's probably the most quotable one. Yeah. And I love the memories of it. I like these other movies a little more, especially my number 1 is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. But I mean, yeah, like we and me quote, like we quote that yearly.
Yeah, not even.
What did I do? What did I do? Like,
yeah.
So that's how good that movie is. It's like Fragile. I see Fragile at least once a month, probably for no reason.
It's you shoot your eye out, kid.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful movie. So that's why it's my number 1. What do you have at number 1?
I have The Grinch. I think that's no secret.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Grinch fan. I have a Grinch coffee cup. My dream is to have a Grinch Christmas tree. I think Jim Carrey is one of my favorite actors of all time. I think this takes the classic and makes it an instant classic, and it makes it a timeless movie. I love the raunchiness of it for no reason. I love Ron Howard, his way of doing this kid's movie, but it's so adult in some ways. But it's so good, like Elf, where you can watch it as a child and love it, and you watch it as an adult and maybe even love it more now. I love the story it tells, though, of like giving that backstory of like, no, he was abandoned and he felt bullied and he felt like he didn't belong. And then as adults, you know, kids are the worst. But as an adult, you're like, well, dude, it's not a big deal. Like, you can come back and be with us. Like, no one's really going to care. And I love that part. I love the relationship with little Cindy Lou. They have these beautiful moments. I love when he saves her. I love it's they took the story you love and they added these little heartfelt moments that just make you enjoy it even more. And I think Jim Carrey plays such a vulnerable role in it that I love. And again, I'm a Grinch where like I hate December, but around Christmas time my heart grows a little bit bigger and I start to like it.
Who wants a gizzard?
Too late. That would be mine.
That would be mine. Good brother, what a wonderful list. Let's run this bad boy down. At number 5, I had Elf. You had
The Night Before.
At number 4, I had Batman Returns. The Good Brother had
Jingle All the Way.
At number 3, I had Home Alone. The Good Brother had
Miracle on 34th Street.
At number 2, I had Gremlins. The Good Brother had
Elf.
And my number 1 Christmas movie is A Christmas Story. The Good Brother had
The Grinch.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Quarantine Files, brought to you by the Good Brothers here on Mercado Airwaves. Make sure you're following us all over the universe. The Good Brothers on Twitter at Mercado21Alex, and on Instagram at Mercado2121. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram Mike Mercado Media, and the show is on Twitter at Good Brothers 5. It is the holiday season. You can go to teespring.com and you can get yourself a
Grab yourself a When in Doubt Merc It Out t-shirt.
teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like, rate, review, and shares wherever you get your favorite podcasts at Mercado Airwaves. Patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves is how you become a producer of the network. For the good brother himself, Alex Mercado.
Adios.
I'm the good brother, Mike Mercado. We'll see you on the next episode of The Quarantine Files, brought to you by the Good Brothers, here on the Mercado Airwaves
Network.